Hey there, I'm out for a hike here in Pennsylvania. Just amazing, beautiful trails. I'm wearing my Run Detroit shirt and my Boston Marathon hat, so I thought um, this would be the perfect time to talk about the power of perspective. The first marathon I ran was the Detroit Marathon. I ran that about 20 years ago, and it was an absolutely horrible experience, to be honest with you. I was a runner, but of much shorter distances. I went into the race totally ill prepared. Had a first half that was absolutely awesome, totally on track, and then the wheels came off. I had no idea what I was getting myself into in the second half of the race. Was just not prepared at all. Didn't really know about fueling, and really fell apart and bonked so badly. And finishing the race was extremely difficult. I barely finished, but did manage to finish. And just remember crossing the finish line. I was almost green. I was just like my body. I was like totally out of fuel and I remember crossing and kind of almost collapsing and thinking that was the worst experience of my life. I am never ever going to do that again. Um, and then enough time passed, and that memory distant enough that I actually started running again and signed up for another marathon, and then did another and did another. Now I've since kind of done a lot of races since, and eventually qualified for the Boston Marathon, which was a lifelong dream of mine. Made it to Boston and ran Boston this spring, and I'd probably never been more prepared for anything in my life. I mean, I did 6 months of amazing training. Literally didn't miss a workout. I was so on track for what I thought was going to be the perfect race, hitting my goal time and everything. And that just wasn't meant to be this year apparently. And it was an extremely hot day, and my race, I hit mile 8, and I knew that it just wasn't going to be the day. From mile 8 to mile 26, it was a really tough day, and I struggled badly and suffered badly, and massively sunburned by the end of the race. It was an extremely hot day. I was totally sunstroked, heat stroked by the end of the day, and about 30 minutes off my goal time. I think I cried 4 or 5 times during the race, and in particular, I knew how many hills there were. There's the Heartbreak Hill, but there's a series of hills, the Newton Hills, and Heartbreak being the very last one. And I just remember cresting Heartbreak Hill and just kind of breaking down and crying, not stopping running. I carried on running the whole time, never stopped, never walked. But that was kind of the big breakdown was at the top of Heartbreak, just kind of knowing that I'd made it through the four Newton Hills. Anyway, suffered badly, badly that day. Barely made it through, but did manage to finish. And in Detroit, the first thing that went across my mind was that was the worst experience of my life. I am never, ever going to do that again. Here's the power of perspective. I crossed the finish line in Boston, and and the first thing that crossed my mind was that was the worst experience of my life. God, I hope I've requalified for next year, and I hope I'm going to be able to get into the race again. So, I bring this up. This came up on a coaching call I had a few weeks ago with a guy, and you know, and I think that we all believe that life's gonna get easier for us. Things are gonna get easier. That's our expectation. It's like, why do we keep having these trials? Why does life keep kind of throwing these difficulties at us? And it does, and it never stops. You can have success and success in business and whatever, but um, and we kind of feel like our business gets to a point. It's like, why do I have to reprove myself? Why do I have to keep going through this? But you do. That's life. And um, and I think what changes is we get over this false belief that it's gonna get easier. It's not. All that changes is we're more equipped, we're more capable, we're more resilient, and able to go through these difficulties and just have more perspective that we bring to them. And so and that's why I go back to these races. Detroit and Boston, they were like, it was the same race, it was the same pain, it was the same difficulty and suffering in both cases. In the one, my response was, I'm never doing that again. And in the second case, my response was, God, I just hope that I'm in the race again next year. And it's just this power of perspective that I can now bring to that, and to that difficulty and to that suffering, that helps me choose a totally different response, totally different type of response. It's a vision response, and not a kind of the negative response to that. So forget the false belief that life gets easier. It doesn't. All that changes is we become different people. We have a different level of resilience, fortitude, and power and perspective that we can bring to these things, and therefore choose a different response as we go through those.